everyone. Welcome back to Unloaded and Uncovered with me, your host, Magda Desir. Do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share any video that you've come across so far. Don't forget to follow and like the Facebook page, Unloaded Uncovered. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Unloaded and Uncovered Podcast. Now that we've got all of that out of the way, I have a guest here today. So I forgot to ask, should we call you Professor Pete, Professor Alexander? How do you want to be addressed today?
My students call me Professor Pete, so that's perfectly fine, Magda. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. So, Professor Pete, how's your day going? How's it going?
It's fantastic, and this is going to be definitely a highlight for me today.
Oh, okay. Amazing. So, Professor Pete, let's get started. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Could you tell us who Professor Pete is?
Sure. Well, I'm grateful to have several things that keep me busy. I'm the president of what I like to call the greatest interior landscaping company in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's called Office Plants by Everything Grows. Even though I manage it remotely from the Seattle area. In addition, I serve as an adjunct professor for Antioch University, where I help inspire students to develop and apply key concepts of marketing to their area of interest. I'm a TEDx speaker, best-selling author on reducing stress in your everyday life, as unfortunately I learned the hard way that trading your health for your career is a very bad trade. And lastly, but certainly not least, I also do volunteer work supporting the causes and organizations I believe in, including leading laughter yoga classes and performing improv comedy to help my community laugh more and stress less.
Laughing yoga classes?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is
Have
the
you ever
first
heard of
I've
that?
heard that. Yeah,
Oh, how
it's the first
fun.
time.
Yeah, so laughter yoga actually started in 1995 in India by a doctor, Dr. Kataria. And basically what it is it's a group of people who get together, and what we do is laughter exercises. So even though it's called laughter yoga, the only real yoga part of it is we do deep breathing as part of our laughter exercises. But the secret sauce to laughter yoga is that as smart as our bodies are, they don't know the difference between a real and a simulated laugh. And it only knows that we're laughing. And when we laugh for at least, let's say 5 to 10 seconds, then the positive endorphins get dropped into our body that gives us all those health benefits. And, all of us, if we've done a hearty laugh, you know how it feels so good afterwards. That's what we try and do for all these different activities, so that people just get the health benefits and the opportunity to really have community together. Because one of the fun things about laughter, no matter what your background is, we all laugh. And when we laugh, it's sort of this connection that happens between people.
That's amazing. I probably would tap into. I'm gonna Google that later and tap into it.
Yeah.
But I've never heard. I get it, laughter yoga, because yoga does a lot of deep breathing exercises. You always have to think about your breathing when you're doing the movements, especially advanced movements and things like that. So you're more focused on the diaphragm and focused on the core to make sure that you are. Yeah. That's interesting. I might have to tap into that and see what that's about, because I love laughing. I'm not gonna lie, I love laughing. It does not matter if I'm by myself. If I think of something that's funny, I'm gonna laugh. Or if I'm just randomly walking down the street smiling. I've had somebody ask me, "What are you smiling for?"
It's so funny that you said that, because I have done that as well. When I used to commute into the office, I would walk down downtown San Francisco, and I would just look at people and smile. And what I would do is I would actually just see how many, so let's say if I walk by 20 people, what percentage of those people smile back? And usually it was about 55, 60%. of the people would smile back because laughter, smiling is contagious. It's kind of like yawning. Have you ever noticed when you're around somebody who yawns and then you all of a sudden feel like yawning? Same thing with
Yeah,
laughter.
yeah.
And there's, what's really fun is there's different videos of people on a subway where, there's people aren't going to be talking with each other. They're just there either, on their phones or, just basically trying to ignore the people around them. And it shows these different videos where somebody gets on the subway and is looking at something and starts laughing hysterically. And at first, everybody's looking, going, what are you laughing at? What is it? And then they all start smiling and then they all start laughing. It's just a wonderful thing. And it's really, really true. It just, laughter just is this common denominator that helps us connect. And the fun thing about the laughter yoga activities is we don't need to put a funny cat video up or tell a joke. We just do activities where at first it's kind of like, this is really stupid, but as you start to do the simulated laugh, it turns into a hearty laugh, because as we start to laugh, we become contagious and we laugh together.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I have a little story. So growing up, my mother never drove, so she would pick me up from school, and we would get on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
There was one point, there was one time where we got on the bus, we sat down, and then this lady obviously was running trying to catch the bus, but she, the bus driver obviously didn't see her, missed her, and she was banging on the window. He was gone already. And she cursed at us, cursed at the bus driver, and I just started laughing. Mind you, I was like 5 years old. So I'm laughing, 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 laughing. Literally the entire ride. Everybody on the bus was laughing. The bus driver, my mother, me, the entire bus was driving. Every stop, everyone that got on was looking at us kind of weird, then just started, as you mentioned, started laughing for no reason. The entire bus was laughing until I got off. So I got off. My mother was like, "What did you do?" I'm like, "I thought it was funny." She missed the bus. She cursed at the bus driver. I'm a kid, so I'm just thinking that that's funny. The entire bus. But I was laughing from the time that lady missed the bus to the time I got off. The entire bus was laughing.
And the sad thing is when we become adults, we laugh so much less than as we were kids. When we were kids, the typical kid will laugh, anywhere from 80 to 100 times a day. And as adults, if we're lucky, we'll laugh 5 times a day. If we're lucky.
What?
Isn't that?
5?
I know, 5 times. Think about it. How often are you laughing? I mean, now, some people are going to be that, aren't as stressed out and everything, are going to be laughing a little bit more. But the average person, if they can get 5 laughs in, they're ahead of the game. And so that's what happens is and the other thing that's really interesting is that we get, as adults, we get into this this point where we feel like, okay, we have to have a funny movie. Have to laugh at a joke or something. We can't just laugh just to laugh. Think about, you just kept on laughing about the lady missing the bus. However, it was just, you were laughing because you were enjoying laughing. And now, we tend to be more self-conscious and go, oh, why are we we can't laugh. Like, it's interesting. I taught a laughter yoga class for these teenagers at the Seattle Parks program. And at first, they did not want to laugh at all. And the reason is because, laughing is not cool. So you could tell, and you could tell there were a couple of them that really did want to laugh, but they were sitting next to their peers who said, don't laugh because that's not cool. We're not going to engage in this. And it wasn't until the afternoon that they finally let loose a bit and enjoyed doing the activities. It was an interesting case study.
That's interesting. Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to start laughing more. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
was at a co-working spot yesterday. I was watching, while working, I was watching the documentary called The Greatest Night in Pop, or The
Mm-hmm.
Greatest, something like that, on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about the song We Are the World that
Oh
came out
yeah.
back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a point where Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles was in the room, and Ray was like, "Hey, I gotta use the bathroom," and Stevie was like,
Mm-hmm.
"I'll take you." So Stevie and Ray are both
Yeah,
blind.
yeah,
So the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
blind leading the blind, I started cracking up. I was cracking up the entire time. I'm like, so you mean to tell me a blind man is leading another blind man to the bathroom inside of a studio? And
Yeah.
nobody moved. They're just like two blind men just walking inside the studio, going to the bathroom. And I'm like, nobody's like at least concerned. Everybody in there was cracking up and was like, no, we're not concerned. They got it. I'm like, okay, bathroom.
Oh, I wish I would have known that. So I had a 45 of We Are the World that I used to play when I was in college. I was a radio DJ for the college, and so
Mm.
they said, the radio station said you could play whatever we have in the library, and the stuff they had in the library was so old and scratched up and stuff. So I just I had my own 45s, and that was one of them. And I always would do some sort of intro before I play the next song and stuff. And that would have been an awesome one because I didn't know that.
No, and I'm glad that they kept all the like tapes and the recording, because they
Mm-hmm.
had people in there, producers in there recording and
Mm-hmm.
recording Mike singing on cassette tapes. It brought back a lot of memories because I grew up in the 90s, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they have cassette tapes, they have tape recorders. Like it just was like, man, even though the song came out before I was born, but it was just it was a fact that I'm like, my goodness, I grew up on this stuff. But it was a
Yeah.
great documentary. I suggest anyone who's watching or listening definitely watch it, because there's just so many greats, Harry Belafonte, Bruce
Mm-hmm.
Springsteen, like anybody you can think of that was at the top of their game, musical game, within the in the 80s and into the 90s, was there. It was
Yes.
it was such a beautiful documentary. I loved
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
It was and I have to say, every time you listen to it, it's so fun. Even if you're not seeing the video, listening and saying, "Oh, I know that voice. That's so and so," and it was so great to have all those stars come together for one big cause, and it was really fun.
it was, but you have to see how they came together, because it was a doozy. It was it
Hmm.
was a doozy. Lionel Richie was like, I didn't know how we pulled that off, but we pulled it off. It was really no, it was really good how they pulled off all of these stars and musicians to sing this one song together. It was great. It was really, really, and you also could see them as human beings, because they talked about their insecurities. They talked about how they were fans of each other, things like that. I was like, wow. Like, these stars, these celebrities, these musicians, but sometimes we don't see them as humans. You know what I mean? We don't necessarily see them talk about their insecurities, or talk about being shy, or thinking that they're not good enough for a project such as the song We Are the World. So it was really good, really, really good documentary. I enjoyed it. So let's
I'm going to definitely
let's
check it
continue.
out.
Yeah, definitely check it out. It's really good. Please check it out. But I do want to let's get back into you. So I heard you talk about, you mentioned how you learned the hard way how stress can affect your health, especially when it comes to work. Can you tap into that a little bit?
Sure. So, Stress and I have had a lifelong relationship together. I grew up in an extremely dysfunctional family, and that did not teach me how to deal with stress the effective way. Basically, what I did was I just tried to ignore it as much as possible, what was going on in the family. And so when I got to be an adult, I ignored all the stressors over and over and over again. And then what happens is as we are stressing ourselves out, our bodies will give us early warning signals.
Yeah.
And if you ignore those early warning signals, then your body has no choice but to keep ratcheting it up until you end up having a bigger problem. And basically what happened to me was I had this perfect storm of stressful activities going on back in about, 15 years ago, 2008. Oh, now 16 years ago. Wow. And what ended up happening was my dad was dying and he needed his affairs to be taken care of because he hadn't done any of that. My mom, and they were divorced, but my mom, she had major hip surgery and didn't have insurance for the physical therapy that needed requirement after that. So she needed help. I was running my business with several employees, and they wanted my attention all the time. My kids were very young at the time and wanted my attention. And, my marriage was heading for a divorce. So needless to say, all these things were on my shoulders and it was very heavy. And what ended up happening is that about 30 days before I got diagnosed, I ended up losing 30 pounds in less than 30 days. And at first, I was in my mid 40s. I thought it was fantastic at first. I mean, I hadn't lost weight since my early 20s. And then after the 30th pound came off, I thought, well, I better have this checked out. And so they did blood work and, look at you. You have stress-induced diabetes. And so, yeah. And what ended up happening, so diabetes does not run in my family. I have a cousin who has diabetes, but that's the only one in my family that I know of that had diabetes. And so I had no idea what was this. And as busy as I was, I said, whatever, just give me the medicine. I'll take it. And I don't have time to deal with this. And so what ended up happening is for another 10 years, I continued to burn the candle at both ends until I ended up in the emergency room 1 hour from being comatose and an extended stay in ICU, hopefully my only time ever I'm in ICU, with a severe case of diabetic ketoacidosis. So basically, my body was eating itself alive because of my stress. And here's the thing that's really crazy about that. At that point, I had gone back to corporate. And so I had a micro manager that I was reporting to. And I was in my mid 50s at that point. This is in 2018. And I'm the second day in ICU. And at about 6 a.m., I get this text from my boss saying, you have a webinar you need to run at 8 o'clock. What are you going to do about it? And what a surprise. I did not have my work laptop in the ICU. I just had my phone. My boss knew I was in emergency room and in ICU. And so I sit there with my phone and I'm trying to push the envelope of what it can do. And the nurse who was was taking care of me at that point, she comes over and they were taking blood samples every half an hour, every hour. You don't sleep at all when you're in ICU. And so I'm sitting there trying to push to reorganize this webinar. And she takes my blood, and my blood sugars, when I was admitted to ICU, they were so high that the medical grade glucometers could not read it, just said high. So the lab had to calculate what my blood sugars were, and they estimated my blood sugars to be 8 to 10 times higher than normal. And it was because I was stressing myself out because of these projects that I was working on, high-profile projects, and a micromanager to go with it. So on my second day in ICU, my blood sugars had come back down into more normal. They were high, but they were more normal. At least the glucometers could read it. And as soon as I sat there trying to reschedule that webinar, the nurse takes my blood sugars, and like a 90-degree angle, it started skyrocketing back up. And she says to me, this is pretty much a complete stranger. She says to me, you realize that's what put you in this hospital bed in the first place. I sat there and I thought, oh my gosh, I am trading my health for my career, and that's a really bad trade. Now, my family had told me this, my friends had told me this, but I didn't, know anything, about this. I just kept on saying, yeah, whatever. Just keep, because I kept ignoring it. So I spent the next couple of days in ICU really thinking about that hard. And then I just decided after I got out, I said, I can't do this anymore. I need to take care of my health, because if I don't, I won't be here to meet my future grandchildren. And so I decided to leave that company and focus on it. And what I ended up doing is finding that as I experimented with different stress relief tools and techniques, not only did my stress go down, my blood sugars as a diabetic went down, my weight went down, and my energy level went way up. It was as if I had discovered the fountain of youth. And here's the crazy thing. If you saw a picture of me from 2008 when I was first diagnosed with stress-induced diabetes, and you see a picture, you see me now, other than a little bit more gray hair, I actually look younger today than I did 16 years ago. So
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. I'm like, you don't look like you're hitting 60. When you said in 2018, I was mid-50, I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah. I've got 60 coming up.
That is, you do not look like you're 60. I promise you don't. I thought you were going to say you were like in your 40s. And then when you said, yeah, in 2008, I was in my mid 40s. I'm like, what? What do you mean? You sure you're not your mid 40s now? Or
Thank you.
Did the doctor write the wrong year on your birth certificate? Like, what? How did that work? Because you don't even look like you're hitting 60. Wow.
Yeah, so it when you look at the pictures of me from 2008, I was stressed out, and I just didn't look good. And our like I mentioned earlier, our bodies give us a lot of warning signals. It might be something like one of the quickest ones is back and shoulder stiffness. And that's, for those of us who work at a desk for most of our workday, when we're stressed, we tend to hunch over, and that puts pressure on our shoulders and back. So, that's an early warning signal that we're stressed out. It could be things like, winter season. So you get frequent colds. So instead of getting maybe one cold a winter season, you're getting a cold every month or even more quickly, depending on how quickly you can recover from it. And that's because our immunity's down, because we're overly stressed. We might be getting excessive or not enough sleep because we're stressed. Maybe we're reaching for the Pepto-Bismol every day because we're getting our stomach is all, problematic. That's, potentially because we're stressed. Grabbing for the Excedrin bottle every day or every other day instead of occasionally because we're getting headaches constantly. That could be because you're stressed. And the weight fluctuations, not just, losing weight like I did, but gaining weight rapidly. That's an indicator that you're stressed too. So these are ones that our bodies are telling us. And when we continue to ignore it, then that's when it keeps ratcheting it up. And eventually, whatever the weakest link in our chain is in our bodies, that's what's going to break. And in my case, it was the pancreas. And
Mm.
Now I have to deal with a chronic disease for the rest of my life. And it is not cheap to have to deal with diabetes. Fortunately, government has said that they've got to bring down the price on insulin. That's a help, but it is expensive. It is expensive, and to try and manage it. And so, had I known, and that's what was where I was heading, I would have done something about it. But I let my career dictate what my time requirements were. So it is what it is.
And so, with the career after you left, how did you deal with your mother and your father and making sure that, oh, okay, well, just by the look in your face, it's like, oh, I got a story for that one. How did you deal with that?
Well, so my dad, he did pass away in 2008. So his things were taken care of. My mom was she passed away in 2022. She was my oldest child. So
Mm.
she just, it was a hard one because she was independent, but she refused to want to get help from people. So when she would have falls where she wouldn't wear the device that I got her, one of those I've fallen and I can't get up devices. And she said, "Oh yeah, I'll wear it when I go outside," and to the store or something. I said, "Mom, you need to wear it when you're at home, because if you're at the store and you fall, at least there's other people around that can help you." So she had these falls where, she would be on the ground for hours, because she couldn't get to that device because she wasn't wearing it at home. So, having to manage that was a hard one. Of course, being able to support my own kids, that one always is a challenge. Anyone who's a parent knows that, because you want the best for your kids. But as parents, you usually have the hardest time trying to convince them of things because you're the parent. So
Yeah.
you just have to support them and know that they've got to figure it out themselves. That's one of the things as parents that's hardest is you have to say, I see they're going to make a mistake here or there, but they've got to learn. That's how they learn. And so you just wait to support them as they need. So that's always one. Now they're in their mid-20s, and yeah, actually the oldest one is getting close to 30 and had his first child. So that's a whole new dynamic, and it's a fun one. But the parenting, now he gets to experience the parenting himself. So it's a good one. It's a good one. So you just have to. One of the things that I've learned through all of this is to stay present, because one of the things that we can do that is so challenging is we worry about things in the past. We ruminate about maybe something we did or didn't do. And a lot of times it's guilt. And the problem is something in the past, we can't change it. We can't. We can learn from it, but we can't change it. So if we can take whatever learnings and forgive ourselves and let it go, whatever is in the past, that can be so liberating for us. And then the other main stressor that when I was writing my book that I found most people have is anxiety about the future, worrying about something that may or may not happen. And the problem is when we worry about something in the future, what we tend to do is send out negative energy towards that, and we'll likely manifest that negative outcome because that's where we're putting all of our energy on. Instead, if we can try and stay in the present as much as possible, we won't miss things. And it's funny. There's this old saying that the present is a gift. That's why it's called the present. And what happens is when we stay present, we tend to just focus on whatever we have to do now. And that puts a lot less pressure on our bodies, our minds, than worrying about something in the future or something that happened in the past that we can't do anything about. So that's one of the main learnings that I've had, as well as having gratitude. Being grateful for everything that you have. And I'm not talking about the big things. I'm talking about the small things. So my wife and I, every night, we have a gratitude exercise at the end of the day, and we just say, "What are you grateful for?" And I always start with, "I'm grateful for my health," because all else is secondary. And the reason is because I have experienced not having the health, and when we don't have our health, the problem is we can't really accomplish much else. And when I ask people about how important is your health, and they say, "Oh yeah, it's no problem," I said, "No, you need to focus on it, because when you don't have your health, think about like the last time you had a really bad flu, for example. Don't take your health for granted." So I always start with that one, and then I just recap the small things that happen. Like, for example, one of the things that I'll be grateful for is our conversation today, because
Oh,
it's the
thank you.
positive things. Yeah, absolutely. So, and and that's the thing is gratitude. If you make it a habit of being grateful for stuff, then you tend to not go towards focusing on what you don't have, because that's when we focus on what we don't have, it's that gap, and and we're never going to be satisfied. And one of the things to be content with is being grateful for what you do have. So
Wow.
putting it in perspective, be grateful for what you have, because there's so many people in the world that don't.
And with that, we'll just end right there. You honestly gave no, seriously, because what's interesting is that the things that you've mentioned, the things that you've learned, and the gratitude portion of your day is what I'm currently going through. Stressing about the future, um, expressing more gratitude with things that I currently have. And I'm like, okay, has he been reading my journal lately? 'Cause what what is going on? Like, have you read my journal? Like, wow, how did you tap into my journal? Literally, all that you have learned and all that you have said is what I'm currently going through. And I honestly was about to. My next question was going to be like, so what was one of the things that you learned? What is one thing that what advice would you give to somebody? And you kind of just you gave it. You gave it to me. You gave it to anybody that's listening. But at the same time, I'm still young. As a millennial, you see your friends and everybody having kids, buying homes and stuff like that. And for me, I don't want to say I feel stuck, but for me, it's like I don't see any movement yet. You know what I mean? So that is kind of like at 36, you're just like, okay, well, is anything going to happen for me? And with the word that you just gave, that's just reassurance that I'm supposed to be where I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
Like, I'm at where I'm supposed to be. Just appreciate what I have, because more is coming, and not to stress about it. Like, I don't have anything more to like say, ask, and I think it was beautifully expressed across the board. And I love how you and your wife, express gratitude at the end of the day. I wonder, will you guys also express gratitude in the morning? Like when you wake up, do you do that as well? Is that like a practice? Okay, so it's a
Yeah,
daily practice. That's
it is.
amazing.
It is. And in the morning, basically, because we all have our things we got to get going doing. So basically what it is it's a hug, grateful for you. That's
Oh,
very
that's
simple. It is.
beautiful.
It is. And so, it just having that gratitude. And, you mentioned about the fact that, comparing yourself to, let's say, people you went to college with or high school with or whatever it happens to be. Don't compare. Don't compare. You're your
Yeah.
own unique individual. And the only person you have to answer to is you. That's the only person. So
Yeah.
you set whatever you want. And the other thing that is a really great idea about with looking in the future, and worrying about something. So if there's something that is coming up in the future, and I don't know about this. Let's say it's a major project you're working on that you have to deliver it, or you have to have a difficult conversation with somebody, or a lot of people have fear of doing speeches in front of crowds. What you want to do is imagine 5 seconds after you have just completed whatever that is. If it's, let's say, the difficult conversation with someone, 5 seconds after that conversation, imagine that you and that other person either shake hands, give a hug, whatever it happens to be, that's a positive outcome. Or if you have to give that presentation, imagine 5 seconds later that the people that you're presenting to give you a standing ovation. Or the project that you have to get delivered, it's delivered on time and it is on point, whatever it happens to be. Whoever you have to give that to, they say, thank you, this is fantastic. Imagine the positive outcome, because you send positive energy. And if you continue to send out the positive energy, you attract back that like energy. That's how the universe works. And so it works the other way as well. If you keep sending out the negative energy, this is not going to work out. Guess what kind of energy you're going to bring back to you? And, people say, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. The perfect example of that is, let's say you're running late for an appointment. And, you were mentioning about the person who missed the bus. So guaranteed, whenever you are running late for an appointment and you are stressing about it, what happens? That's when you're going to miss the bus, or you're going to hit every red light as you're driving to that appointment, or whatever, or there's going to be an accident, or whatever it's going to be. That's what happens when we're sending that negative energy out there, because the universe is going to say, you want to be late, so I'm going to send you back everything that'll make you late. It's just the way the universe works. So send out positive energy, you will attract back positive energy.
Yeah, boomerang effect. That's beautiful.
That's absolutely right.
That's beautiful. Well, Professor Pete, let us know where we can find you. Any upcoming events, updates, book releases. Yeah, let us know.
Sure. Just Magna, they can reach me at petealexander.com. That's got, and I, have people connect with me on social media. All my social media channels are there, and that's where I give the updates. So, and the link to my book and other resources as well. So I appreciate being on your show, and I appreciate your listeners' time as well.
Oh, thank you for coming. Thank you so much. I definitely, again, I'm checking out that laughter yoga thing.
Do it.
I want to tap into that. I really want to tap into that. But I want to thank everyone for tuning in, watching, commenting, sharing, liking. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to find, follow, and like us on Facebook at Unloaded and Uncovered. Do not forget to follow us on Instagram at Unloaded and Uncovered Podcasts. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Professor Pete, thank you for coming and sharing and dropping some gems for us, especially me. Like, I loved it. I loved it. Your energy is great. I learned a lot from you. And I wish you nothing but, the best health, abundance, prosperity, wealth, love, all that good stuff. I appreciate you for coming. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciated our conversation.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, see you later. Bye.